These are the only 3 real things you need to know when it comes to mixing. If you're new here, I go by 20 Paths on the internet. I've been mixing for 4 years and have mixed hundreds of beats and songs. Now mixing, it's literally just volume. So first on the list, leveling, aka volume. To put it simply, leveling, just turning things up or down, using your ears of course, not any visual aid. So why is this important? Basically, I use it to get into the ballpark of what I'm going for or what it's gonna eventually sound like. I view it as the foundation, you know what I'm saying? Like it's support of like the house, metaphors. Alright, so now I'm gonna tell you what I do. So inside FL Studio there is the channel rack. I use the channel rack to initially level everything out. That way it sounds good and I'm not looking at numbers. Another thing I'll also do is I'll switch the master to mono. Now when you do this, basically it's just gonna squash everything. That way you can hear like a clear winner, what I call a clear winner, or what I think of is a clear winner. I usually separate it into clear winner and some type of like supporting, some type of support for the winner, and you got like rhythm. Really everything else is just background. So I usually like separate it into like 3 categories, which is obviously the lead, then like a support, and then everything else it just like fills in. I do this because this is typically how a person that doesn't have their ears trained like an average listener would hear the track. They would just hear like the lead, like a lead vocal, a supporting synth or like rhythm, whatever, and then literally everything else. Like they wouldn't be able to pick apart about how everything else is like most producers and mixers can. When doing this, basically this just gives me the big picture. Basically this is big picture thinking. We love big picture thinking. Also, to touch on the channel rack thing, so I do that because I don't want to look at the numbers. I just use my ears when I am doing that, and that basically will help train your ears. Along with that, I try to stay away from the actual mixer, and if I really do need to get like specific with the channel rack of like what I'm doing, then I might go to the mixer, or I'll just pull up the little button and set it to like an exact percentage. Now doing this slowly over time, this has dramatically impacted my mixes. Like I went from dog water to actually, you know what I'm saying, like everything translates good. Now I wouldn't call myself like a professional where I'm getting paid to do this day in and day out, but like if you listen to my stuff, sounds pretty damn good in my opinion. So like I show my brother some of my songs from time to time. I remember whenever I initially started doing this, you know what I'm saying, the ears aren't trained, you know, like no bueno. And he would basically say like, you know what I'm saying, it sounds good. Really like low key sounded trash, but then I started doing this more, and say like a couple months later I showed him some more stuff and he thought that it sounded like professional, like something that like a top rapper, artist, whatever would like put out. He thought the quality was that high. I also say this to show you like how long it took me, like trial and error versus like, you know, somebody teaching me. I also bring that up because I do have a school community where I'm going to be putting out course material for that. It's not finished, but if you do want to join it, I will put the link in the description. And you can ask some questions in the community, let me know something, I'm always happy to help. The next thing that I do want to talk about is tonal balance. So basically what this is just volume, but in the frequency range. This is where things start getting a little bit more complicated, where you introduce like all the dynamic processing and all that type of junk or whatever. Really, like, you don't need all of it. Really, you just need EQ and a little bit of compression most of the time. I would compare this to like a puzzle, because you have to make every single piece fit together, but in this type of puzzle you get to choose the way it fits, but there's typically like a good way that it fits, because if it doesn't fit right, it's not gonna like conform together. If you know what I'm saying, like everything just has to sync. Now where I do the most tonal processing is just with the instruments. Obviously you could do this for the drums and all that. Usually that's all good, like you don't really need to adjust that too much. and when you do, like, it's just very little. But where everything else mainly occurs is just the instruments. Now what I use basically to do like all the heavy lifting is I'll use Portec, which is a free EQ by Analog Obsession. I really love this EQ, and I'll basically use this to do like most of the heavy lifting, basically get it and the sound into the ballpark of what I want. And then using a normal EQ, I will then go in and do more specific adjusting. And if the sound is fluctuating a lot, and I mean a lot, then I will use a compressor. I usually use Pro C to compress everything, but Analog Obsession does have a free LA2A emulation plugin. It's pretty good. I would recommend that. And I'll try to get it to where it's not fluctuating as much. I usually shoot for I'll try to get like as consistent of a sound as possible. Basically, I don't necessarily have a range of like compression. I just do whatever sounds best. Basically, try to get it to sound way more consistent because that's what I want. Now, some more about the technicalities behind this, especially with the the Portec EQ. Basically, there's this thing called frequency masking, and around the range of 250, I would say like 250 to 300, the more prominent that is, basically the louder it is, the more it will like cover up the high end. Think of like around like 3K, basically like the highs. It'll also like open up the track a little bit more. So like how I use Portec is I'll set the left EQ to 200, and then from there take it down. Usually I always take it down unless I'm like using some type of like bass or whatever, then I would set that to like 60. But yeah, usually on instruments set it to 200 and I'm only removing. Now with the other part, the high end, I'll set that to 3 to 4K in boost, but you kind of have to be careful with this because it also boosts a lot of like presence or air, basically like around 10K, which is, it can be, it just depends on the sound. So basically you just have to use your ears and hope that your equipment is not lying to you. If you know, you know. I'll make a video on that some other time. So now stacking all of these like simple things into everything and actually like knowing what you're listening for, having a good playback system, all of that, it correlates to a good mix. And then the rest, like reverb, automation, clipping, de-resonance, whatever else you want to throw in that's like extra, everything else, I would say that that's after. Like you do that after, and then you then adjust that the same way you did everything else like on the instruments. But that takes way less time in my opinion, besides automation. If you're gonna do automation like hand by hand like that, that's gonna take forever. But that's pretty much what I do. If you have any questions about what I do, anything else, school, what I do, if you want to hear more stuff that I make, leave a comment down below. Let me know like what do you want. See ya.